Good afternoon and welcome to Refresh. This is our time, of course, to connect, be inspired, learn something, and ultimately feel just a bit better for this time spent together. After all, that's what Generation W is all about. And speaking about Generation W, oh my goodness, this is Generation W week. I truly hope, as all people are signing on, coming to see us, everybody's registered. If you haven't, definitely text us. Let us know. We'll help you register, but this is it. And I thought we'd start off today's show, which is a very, very special show, by the way. It will be great. It will be uplifting. It will be inspiring. But with that little bit of motivation, you wanted to see this for all of you who were with us last week, twice. So for you, if you weren't with us, Sherry, let's just start out with a little Generation W motivation with a little commentary to follow, because truthfully, we really want you to register.
Now, that was spectacular. Oh my goodness. I have to say, I have tears in my eyes. And being at Gen W is this incredible experience because you're filled with joy and justice and tears and laughter. It's such an emotional experience. And it's a real shot in the arm. Can I get that clip to play every morning? That's my refresh.
Wow. Love Jerry. For those of us who were with us, she was just amazing last week. Lots of great feedback. And yes, that is your refresh. It's our refresh too, Jerry. I have to say that this is like a runway. We have been like a little beehive. You see my shirt today. It says, actually, can you see it? I can't tell if you can. Be kind. But we've been like this little beehive, working away over many months, but you know, it gets really intense at this point in time. And I'll tell you, when the bees get busy, what happens? There's honey, and there will be lots of it, the sweetness of the Generation W gathering. And yes, it will be different. If you've been part of it, then you can rekindle those feelings. If it's all new for you, just know that there's this inspiration offered by speakers. The ideas, you know, they might poke at us a little bit, and that's a good thing, but there'll be so much positive energy that stokes your spirit, and we will gain a lot by remembering and knowing that we're not alone, because there will be so many people there to join us. And I'm hoping it's you. It's all good stuff, and I would tell you that it definitely feels now more than ever how important, so important that we gather. So today's like the runway. We begin today and we keep it going all through Friday afternoon. We are building the big momentum. Generation W has always been about the gathering and the celebration of ideas. And in preparing Refresh for today for all of us, we thought that's what we should do. So believe it or not, this is week 23. Who's counting? We are. It's almost a half a year's gone by, right? It's astounding. But we've been sharing and caring together, coming together all this time. And I have to say thank you to everybody. It's been a blessing because for everyone who has been generous enough to come share with us and help us refresh our spirits, I will tell you, upon reflection, it's left me in a definitely better place. And I've come to recognize that they have left me with this well, perhaps all of us, a well of resource that I can draw upon in so many different situations, because it's not getting easier. Let's just recognize that, right? So they've helped me to build a capacity to cope. Tell me about yours, right? To understand, to learn, to stay more focused, to be happy, to be more positive, right? To be calm. That's a challenge. And yes, connected. All of that good stuff. And the best part is I get to quote all these really smart people. And so people think that I'm really smart, but we all know better. But it is so cool. I'm in so many different conversations and I can then go back and recollect, or I can website to see what people who are in that space, what they're saying. It's also interesting that there's been a true emotional arc when you think about it, right? It's an emotional timeline. Every week, something new is happening. Something new to be considered, where we are, and the storylines. And there's a great word that I wanted, the narratives, right? The narratives keep changing. So for today, Sherry Levin, the most amazing producer, creative soul, and so passionate about all we do, has put together what we're calling the top 15. So these are our first 15 shows with great highlights from amazing speakers. We'll watch something, we'll talk about it. Please be sure and write all your comments in your chat. We'll be monitoring it. Tara's got all the Facebook folks. And let's live this together. I do think that collectively there's so much power in this, what we call this high dosage of Refresh this morning. So you ready to start? I hope so. So Dr. Olenda Johnson starts off with a gold mine of nuggets. I remember Sherry and I talking about that, and we thought it was so funny, a gold mine of nuggets, because it's true, about leadership. And Sanyin Siang asked us a simple question, right? Can we be forgiving of ourselves? Or why are we not as forgiving of ourselves? Here we go.
Well, the reality is leadership is a team sport, right? It's not an individual act, right? And so I actually revel in the fact when I find myself in different leadership roles in not knowing everything, because that means I can rely on the expertise of the people on the team and sort of draw that in, and it relieves some of this pressure of I have to be the one. So we make the distinction between leadership and leader, where leadership is the process of leading and leader is about the person as a leader. And so, we often hear about leadership training. For the most part, at least as we conceptualize it, leadership training focuses on those skills and those processes, whether it's communication skills or decision-making skills or those types of things. From the leader standpoint, we're really focusing on who you are as a person. What are your capacities that help you to be more effective? And that's really where I sit and our team sits in the work that we're doing. So with that in mind, this whole idea of leadership and what it is, and when you see it, is really about your ability to have a positive impact on others and enable them to support whatever your organization's or your team's missions are.
We're all high achievers, and high achievers, we are perfectionists, and then we strive for the perfection. We don't hit all the things we want to do. And if you're like me, then you beat yourself up over it. Right. Now, the rest of the world is more forgiving of us than we realize. Why aren't we as forgiving of ourselves?
Yes. Well, you can't. Wait. You can't ask questions. You have to answer them today.
No, that was a question I've been asking myself. So one question is, did we do our best to forgive ourselves today?
Yes.
Because we have to. We happen to be in an unprecedented crisis of our lifetimes. We can't perform to the same level of excellence that we have been before, and that's okay. And then the other thing that I find super interesting and exciting is, hey, you're in my kitchen. And I saw Tiger Lily last time we talked, right? And your cute puppies. And we are seeing on screen, you saw Oliver, we're seeing each other's lives, the messiness of each other's lives. And that messiness is beautiful because that's what makes us human. And I'm hoping that as a silver lining to all of this, that we're able to see each other in totality, not just the work Donna, or the work Sanyin, but we're seeing Sanyin and Donna.
Okay, so I love the question. Did we do our best to forgive ourselves today? Now, I understand it's only noon, but I do think in that well of resources I spoke of, or the basket of goodies that we can carry around with us in this challenging time. And I would say, listen, life is challenging, but it's more challenging now for sure. That's a really good question. I'm wondering, what kind of questions do you all ask yourself? Just curious. Let me see. I have Tara here. Hi, everybody. Chris, thank you for all your really wonderful emails this past week. Hi, Erin and Mary Jackson. How are you? We didn't even have time to catch up. Hi, Lisa, the best grower of cucumbers you'd ever know, and our guest next week, which I'll tell you at the end of our show. Erin has used Dr. Johnson's leadership is a team sport phrase many times over the past year. Well, I do think leadership is a team sport. I think life is a team sport, right? Now, let me just say all of this too. If you happen to be on Zoom, you can unmute yourselves and just let us know that you want to talk, and feel free. We debated about whether getting everybody's face on, and at this point in time, it was a little late in our technology planning, but if you'd like to say something, you can. If not, please make sure it's in the chat, and please let Tara know. Just continue to write in Facebook and we'll continue. Anyway, I thought that was a pretty powerful duo. I think everyone is. But if we're ready to move on with no further comments, we'll take it into our next segment. So in times when our heads are down and our thoughts retreat inward, Dr. Wendy Borlabi stressed self-efficacy to help us manage the juggle and the struggle. And by the way, that is definitely something that has stayed with us. We've used it several times. Like Erin, you talked about we should come up with all of our Gen W or refresh sayings, right? I'm going to put highlights on them, right? The first one was leadership is a team sport, the juggle and the struggle. Okay, and then we have psychotherapist Jamie Olken and Dr. Richmond Wynn, who gave us tools to focus on our mental hygiene. Oh, I love that. And we close out the segment with expert doctors. We love them too. Oh, I love this, right? Where's Deb Levy? She's not in this part of the show. We only did 15, but right? I feel like we're being infused with all this love and concern and caring, and it's making my brain react in such a good way, and it's such a good time for me to feel that way. So we have the doctors from the Mayo Clinic on Women's Health, Dr. Stephanie Faubion and Dr. Jackie Thielen, and they urge us to make self-care a priority. So Sherry, without further ado, the next segment.
I actually like to think of self-efficacy. I don't really think of confidence. So I break it down. Self-efficacy is your belief in your ability to accomplish a single task. So I'll say that again. It is your belief in your ability to accomplish a single task. So I look at self-efficacy. So, self-efficacy makes up confidence, the global confidence. And so if somebody is confident in doing something, or they feel great in doing whatever, and you feel like that you're not confident in that, let's say they're confident in their abilities to teach their 7-year-old in homeschool, and you're not confident in your ability to do that. I would break that down to, do I feel like that we could do math today? We could do math today. Could we read Barbie today? My self-efficacy in being able to read a book about Barbie to my daughter is really high. I could do that today. I'm building my confidence, because now I've broken it down from the global to just a little pieces. And so I love to look to that for myself, and I do that with the players as well, because we get self-confidence can be so confining sometimes. But you can still do lots of those little things within there. And so I would say, look to build your self-efficacy. Look to find things that help you look to find things that you can do, your belief in your ability to do that task, and then accomplish that task. It's going to feel really good.
But how do we help others when we feel like we're at the end of our own personal, right, reps? Like, you know, our reservoirs are so low, and yet we are there, supposed to be there. How do we fuel the tank?
I'm not sure that you can help other people while your reservoir is empty. I think you have to just accept that right now it's okay not to be okay. And you start rejuvenating, and you start empowering yourself, and you start feeling better, and then you can step out and help. But I think you got to start with yourself. And so there's times that you just kind of, if you're at your end state, then kind of build yourself back up, give yourself some time. It's okay. And I think you have to really be kind to yourself. Just be okay with that.
Right. Okay. Well, that was Lisa. So she thanks you. So how about some closing words of advice in this difficult time, Jamie? You're always having closing words of advice.
I think what I said to Stacy is important, but you know, just understand to report things, don't judge things, and to take the mask on, put the mask on when you have to, and take it off so that you can listen. And keep coming back for conversations. It may not go right the first 10 times, but just keep coming back.
And I would add to what you were saying earlier about, basically you're talking about self-care when I think it was Lisa talking about being depleted and trying and expected to help. That I thought I heard that I'm supposed to help. And so part of that is checking the expectations that you put on yourself. And building or enhancing whatever your self-care regimen is, part of this whole mental hygiene, we also call it self-care, is setting boundaries and taking space and taking time to refresh and renew. That is a critical part. Taking time out, disconnecting from the news, for me, I like to disconnect from people and conversations and go hang out with the trees. And so that is a very critical part of this whole process and we call it self-care, mental hygiene, taking care of yourself, renewing. It's like you wouldn't keep driving your car on empty, it wouldn't work. And you have to plan to go to the gas station, plan to go to plug your car in if you have an electric car. We have to do that. We have to plan and incorporate intentionally taking care of ourselves so that we don't get so depleted.
One of the first things I tell women when they come in the office is you do have to make yourself a priority. And that is very, very hard for women, especially in times of stress. Because we can see it in everybody else, but we can't see it in ourselves.
And I think giving ourselves a break, that not everything has to be perfect right now. I think women take that on a lot. That no ball needs to touch the ground and everything needs to keep running as it would before. And I think we need to give ourselves a little leeway there, that things do not have to be perfect right now. Not everything has to be done.
Hey, you caught me typing. Things do not have to be perfect right now. Although I am living in a time where I feel like everything has to be perfect right now. But I think I know better, right? I just want to say hello to Colleen Orender. Hi, Kyle. Thanks for joining us today. We have a special refresh, the week of Generation W. So we're looking at some of the highlights. What's interesting to me is as I watch these, again, I'm hearing new things that I did not hear the first time. And of course, I'm always trying to figure out what the next question is, or I'm looking at what you're saying. So sometimes I do miss a bunch of stuff. But when Dr. Wynne talked about the mental hygiene and the self-care, and I liked when he said, oh, imagine if you're an electric car. I've never quite thought of myself as a Tesla, but okay. Yes, I would have to plug myself back in. And I get that. We should all think about that. Whatever the imagery is that will help us feel better is a good thing. And I love Dr. Jackie. When Dr. Thielen says, you know what, make yourself a priority, right? Make yourself a priority. That is really hard, especially for women when we're so concerned about taking care of everybody else. Tara, any questions or things that we should be, here. Kara Ann Casey. Hey, Kara Ann, how are you? She says she reminds herself every night that she did the best she could do today, using the tools she had, and tomorrow she could do better. I think that's helpful. I think that's helpful. I don't know that I go to bed saying I did the best I could. I mean, I think that's what we strive for. But I think the idea of saying, okay, I did this and I can do better, I'm all in on that. That's for sure. That's for sure. So looking ahead here, well, let me see. Sherry has given me incredibly wonderful notes, and I want to make sure I do them justice. Okay. In 2019 at Generation W, we met two incredible women. We meet great people all the time. And I'm so glad they stay in our community and they've become our friends, because I think that speaks to this strength that we're feeling here together. So we had Marla Wynne, who was the person whose life totally turned upside down. She was a successful Hollywood producer. The writer's strike came and she lived in somebody's garage and then reinvented herself. Pretty remarkable. And then we had Leah Jewell, who was and remains actually one of the global authorities on employment and skilling and reskilling. Really great. They were both featured speakers, and they joined the early shows of Refresh and confirmed their beliefs that transformation is a lifelong process. And at a time when we need to be reminded of how to find hope and begin to heal, we turn to, of course, Mr. Positivity himself, who was texting me last night, John Gordon. So this should be a really good upbeat segment reminding us about how we can transform and be positive about it. Sherry, I leave it to you. Yes, it is. And you know, you bring up a really great point. There's so much opportunity in where we are. Like you, because we've had this discussion, we feel struggle, we feel real pain. We hear stories that are horrible that say, what do we do to help? And on the other side, there are the other kinds of stories of true resilience. And every day is a day we can reinvent ourselves. And Marla, your history of reinvention is pretty remarkable. And I know that you have a lot to share about what your experiences are that can help people feel, give them a little, everyone wants to know what's going to happen tomorrow. You know, that would be great. I have the woman who's going to tell you what's going to happen tomorrow. Not what's going to happen, but what could happen when you think about your life in a different way.
Well, you know, I think reinvention is a lifelong process, and I don't think it's something, you know, years ago, I was at a, what do you call it, graduation at Wellesley. And was it Wellesley? I can't remember which of the university Ivy Leagues it was at, but one of the things that the woman said was, the dean of the students said, is if you came here and thought that what you were doing here was studying to become X, I assure you, you'll end up being Y, with the exception of a doctor, a lawyer, whatever. But if you had a general studies background, which is what I did, life now demands reinvention all the time. I look at my son, Jason, who thought, oh, I'm going to move to LA. I'm going to sell real estate. I mean, he's like, oh, I don't know what's going to happen next. None of us know. But I think unless we are just a stupid bunch of people, we can't help but come out of this better. There isn't a negative thing that's ever happened in my life that didn't somehow open a door to something better.
We want to ask everybody, like, leave us with 3 thoughts, 3 things that you think will help us as we move forward in our lives and feel refreshed as we depart.
Well, we've probably covered a couple of them, so I'll keep it quick. One is definitely do your best to think through how you can learn skills and just learn during this period of time. That I definitely think is one. And I think that the other is network. And now is a great time to be networking with people, to be connecting with people maybe you haven't been connected with for maybe 2 or 3 years, but were important in your life at one point in time. And certainly that is very important in terms of jobs and careers. So now is a perfect time to be networking and be talking to people and learning from the people who you're networking with. And then the last thing I would probably say, and it's something that I think about a lot, I thought when I was a manager, and I think about every day that we're in this right now. And that is, I think it's just called, or I've heard it referenced as the Zorro circle, which is, draw a small circle around you, focus on the stuff that you can control, the stuff that there's a lot of stuff that's going on out here that you cannot control. So, and it's easy to get caught up in all of that. But if you can just focus in on the things that you can control, you're going to feel better about what you're doing. I think you'll be happier, and you'll be able to move things forward. And I've always just felt like those are the things that I think about anytime I'm going through really difficult periods of time.
Expert. We're in a time where our positivity is challenged. So share with us what you're hearing.
Well, first and foremost, it's okay to not be okay. We're going to go through a lot of range of emotions. We're going to go through a lot of feelings during this time. We've been through a lot of feelings, grief and sadness and anger and frustration. You said it earlier. We're going to go through all these different emotions. But when we are feeling those negative emotions, we don't want to stay there too long because it will take us down a spiral staircase of despair. We want to make sure that we can lift ourselves up. We got to feed ourselves each day so that way we can feed others. The more we do that, the more you feed yourself with positivity, the more you could feed others. And this is not Pollyanna positive. This is not about seeing the world through rose-colored glasses. This is knowing that you have the power to overcome the thorns. This is knowing that pessimists do not change the world. It's the optimists, the believers, the dreamers, the doers, positive leaders like you, Donna, who transforms teams and organizations. I talk about you all the time in my talks. I wrote about you in my book, The Power of Positive Leadership. So this is very real. And this is about overcoming all these challenges and adversities that we are facing right now. And you won't do it by being negative. You won't do it by being pessimistic. We do have to believe that these challenges will be opportunities as we move forward.
Wow. Tara, I'm checking you. Anybody here on our chat? Oh, gosh, I have so many things moving here, but this is good. I'll tell you what I heard. I mean, again, new things all the time. Marla, there's not a negative thing that happened to me that didn't make me better. I would say that in a time of confusion and despair, that's probably a good thing to know, that we will be better. And I'm seeing that in businesses as people are embracing innovation, reimagination. You'll see a lot of talk of this through a lot of the folks at GMW. It's exciting. I never heard Leah talk about the Zorro Circle before, but I love that. And it definitely pertains what we'll be talking to about next week with Lisa and the idea of what you can control. And okay, I think I might put this one up on my board. Pessimists don't change the world. You got to believe. We got to believe. And I am sure we all have those moments when we are not certain we do. I think I've had some of those this week. Constant droning around on what is wrong, and there's so much wrong, but we got to figure out what we can do to make it right and not cave. So, Debbie Banks loved. I like not letting the ball touch the ground. That's also really appropriate. I get that one too. I like that as well. Marian mentioned you do things to lift yourself up. You do, and we got to, and to lift others up. I'm enjoying this. It's kind of fun. It is a good dose of a lot of things, and I love keeping notes, so that's fine. So let me take you to our next one. Sherry reminded me that I skipped one. I didn't do it on purpose. Okay, this was when the pandemic hit us really strong with this resounding cry, we're all in this together. But when we spoke with our dear friend Ita Ekpoudom, her concept was survive and thrive, and how business will look post-COVID was introduced. That's what we talked about. I have to look at my notes here. And then we talked to the actress Tina Lifford, who, by the way, will be making a guest appearance at Generation W in one of the most dramatic portrayals in a very special segment. So I will leave that as a teaser. We looked at Tina to help us get through the tough times, and she talked about identifying our purpose, which I know is an ongoing question. How do I know what it is, whatever? She talks about that. And then we wrap this segment up with our very first Refresh guests. They got us off to a great start with some comedic thought from our very favorite neuroscientist, Dr. Heidi Hanna, and Michelle Gainless, who she was the head of Comedy Central for 12 or 13 years. They really helped us with where humor and comedy can help us relieve stress, and left us with one key piece of advice to help us get through the pandemic. I am sure it's still relevant. Roll it away, Sherry.
this is happening all at once, but we're all experiencing it very differently. And from the standpoint of what I'm seeing in business, and to back up, at Gingerbread Capital, we are a venture capital firm, and we back high growth female founded companies. So we are looking for companies where at least one of the founders, co-founders is a woman. And I think, the data is starting to show that in this time, women businesses, which even before COVID were very hard hit, are being hit very hard in a post-COVID world. And part of it is lack of capital. Part of it is an entire disruption to the economy as a whole. But then how do you survive and thrive through that? You do need money, you need business to keep going. So it's an interesting time where we're seeing within our own portfolio, we're seeing some companies that are actually doing well during this time, but then we're also seeing companies that are having challenging moments. So I think that's what we're seeing across the board when we think about business today. What does it mean to be in business today versus even 3 months ago? It's a very different thing.
To get a journal, because I'm all about journaling, and there's just so much value that can come from having a trusty, my journal is right here, right now, having a trusty journal by your side that can be your best friend as you develop a relationship, a new relationship with yourself as your best friend. And if in fact you're lost, if you don't know what your purpose is, if you don't know what to do, instead of feeling like, you're just left out of the game, you actually can use this one question to help you get there. And the question is, what is my purpose? How am I to best live my life? What was I born to do, and how am I meant to contribute?
And I would just say to everyone to understand that the ups and downs of life are normal and to be expected. We are going through such a high intensity confusion, chaos, stress, all of that kind of stuff, that we're going to feel depressed. We are going to have low energy, fatigue, feel burned out, feel confused, all of that. And just know that's part of the journey, because I think what is hardest for people right now is when they feel what I've felt so long, like my brain's broken, there's something wrong, I'm weak. No, you're not. We're just going through something. We'll get through it together. We'll be better as a result of going through this. I really believe that. But we have to have community and conversations like this to help lift us up along the way.
Okay, so I don't know if you guys are all taking notes, but what's hitting you in your brains? I mean, Ita's question is so important. What does it mean to be in business today? I think we're answering that every day. There are new answers every day. And I always viscerally react to, we're not living in the same world. I get it. It's different. I get it. But we are really seeing things that it's going to have a lot of staying power. And it really it impacts how we look at our businesses, how we look at work, right? We had that whole show, which was Beyond 15, with Amy and David about living at work and working from home. All of these issues are ongoing and still being revealed. And of course, once the pandemic ultimately lifts, we're going to answer these questions again and probably continue to evolve the answers. Tina, she did talk about the power of purpose, but the power of journaling. I have notebooks all around me. It's a discipline. It is helpful. I probably could do this better than I meditate, because I don't meditate. I don't know about you, and I don't know why it should even be a choice. And then Heidi, listening to her, I was actually just typing as I was listening to her to remind her of her advice, which is that we have highs and that we have lows, and that we will get through the lows. And if we have conversations and we rely on community, we will be better on the other side. But, actually that's why we do Refresh, so that we can connect with the highs and the lows and have a community of sharing and caring. So I'm feeling pretty good about that. Just checking. I have so many screens open. This is not my most efficient use of them, but I'm trying to get there, friends. So thank you for giving me some grace. I'm trying to give myself some grace. All right, Sherry, who are we going to now? We are going to, Sherry Levin said, do Lakesha, and the young activists.
When I saw Ahmaud Arbery, I saw my sons. And when I saw George Floyd, I saw my son. So I just believe that majority of humanity wants justice, equality. We want bad cops held accountable. And I don't want to be discriminated against like anybody else. But as far as police officers, I believe in my heart that majority of police officers are good and that this profession is a calling, and that small percent of bad cops is really what scares me. That small percentage is why I worry and have had those conversations with my son. So what I would want citizens to understand is that we hate that small percentage of bad cops more than you can ever imagine, because it makes our jobs very hard and it hurts. Look at the climate that we're in now towards police officers. And I'm sorry, because it's been very, very difficult to walk. And you know that I love children. So, you know, we're in the community now and you have small kids that are just terrified. And people have been, quite frankly, hateful towards us, rude. And it's not the vast majority, because majority of citizens in this community have been very supportive. But for a week after those riots began, I felt like I was in the middle. Then the realization sunk in that for the first time, that I was Black and blue. And for several days, people had a lot of questions. People were doubting. People were fearful, which I understood. So they were calling, asking, different questions, and as if I had to choose a side. So I finally got to the point where I said, I don't have to choose. I am blue and Black, and I'm proud of it. So again, it's just been a trying time for all of us, and I really believe that some good is going to come out of this.
Let me ask you this. Who's giving you the courage? How'd you find your voice?
Sometimes things are bigger than you. You have to stand up for what you believe in, because it takes a bigger, it's a bigger message out there. You need to make change, because it's not just individually, it's for a whole group of people that need to stand up for each other and stuff. So I guess it just came from that want to change, and just like fighting for my brothers and sisters and people who look like me and people of color, but also my mom. She's a strong Black woman, so she gives me the courage, and my family and stuff. So being surrounded by people who care and want change, I guess that's what gives me the courage every day. And like Leah said, being around groups and stuff, like how she said she went, like being surrounded by people who also care about the cause and also deal with some of the things that you deal with, it's easier for you to speak out and be comfortable and stuff.
I'm glad you brought up your mother, Toni, because she is a really strong Black woman.
Yeah.
She's brilliant and smart and caring. Let me ask all of you about the older people in your life, parents, caregivers, grandparents. What are they? Where are they on the issues that you're engaged in? And how often have you have conversations with them? Sierra,
So my dad in particular, he was a child that was bused to other schools to integrate them. And so hearing his experiences as a child in elementary school, desegregating schools, is always interesting, as well as hearing my mom, who came from an area that always looked like her. And so hearing their perspectives and hearing especially older people that were more in tune with civil rights. I know you were talking about Rodney Hurst earlier. So him and I, we've been having conversations. He would come to my high school, Stanton, and he would give talks on Axe Handle Saturday. And so hearing their stories is really, really empowering, because we have so many more resources now as young people than they did back then in the 60s. So it's great to hear, and it definitely inspires you to keep making progress, to keep moving forward and using your voice.
Yeah, we have lots of stories to tell, don't we? And it's important we share stories, right? Absolutely. Q, what about you and your family? I mean, where did your pull towards government come from? And what's your family? What are they sharing with you these days?
Yeah, so I feel like I'm really blessed. I'm able to have these conversations with my family all the time, whether that's talking politics on Facebook with my mom or having political discussions with my aunts and my grandma. Their willingness to teach me and to teach me how I should get involved really got my interest in politics going. And then just learning about all of our pioneers, especially in the civil rights movement, it really helped me knew where I wanted to go in the future.
Right, great. All right, now, Grace, I am sure that your family has lots of different conversations. Tell me what kind of feedback you're getting from your family and friends in terms of your activism and interest in creating change.
Yeah, we have conversations every single day, and I think that's incredibly important. And I'm really thankful because my family and my friends have been incredibly supportive. And I'm even more thankful for my parents because they allowed me to meet you, Donna. And that's who I'm thinking of when you're asking everyone who inspires you, because you, Donna, like, you have taught me what it means to truly be fearless and to advocate for whatever you want. And I firmly believe that if we don't do it, if I don't do it, who else is going to? And so I'm incredibly grateful for my parents and for you and for everyone in my life for really just supporting me always.
So if I don't do it, who will do it? I think that is certainly anthemic at this point in time. And what's interesting is I'm hearing in so many different sectors, right? We haven't done anything on sports yet, and I think we'll pick that up post-Gen W, but when we think about these athletes, I couldn't really understand when they're saying, well, we should be out fighting for social justice instead of playing, and I'm thinking, there's this tremendous platform that gives you a enhanced voice. Don't run from the platform, perhaps you can do both. But sitting on a call recently with one of my colleagues, and we heard women saying, maybe we shouldn't be doing this work right now. Maybe there's other callings. Maybe there's things that are more important for me to do. So there's this interesting shift. And I think hearing from our young activists, if you will, is so important. I would love to know what and if any of these have touched you. I have been texting with Sherry as I've been listening and taking notes, and we learn a lot about these environments a lot, and a lot of what we've learned we've incorporated into Gen W to make it an exceptional experience. I do love the faces. As much as I hate looking at my own, I love seeing yours more than I hate looking at my own, because I want to see what you're feeling. I want to hear what you're saying. I would love to have conversation, and this kind of stretches it, which tells me, Sherry, next time we do something like this, we will be able to plan more in advance, and we can get everybody in a big group so we can have that conversation I know that I need more than this. But of course, I appreciate everyone being here. I think that's probably all the highlights that you put together. Now, I will say this. Sherry put together an additional highlight, which I have been pushing back on for a couple of weeks now. She thinks it's hysterical. I don't think it's so hysterical. I don't mean to influence you in any way, but as you must know that anytime you do something like this, there are bloopers. And as difficult as I know it seems that I would have any bloopers, there's tons of them. Matter of fact, me just speaking could be a blooper, although I try to keep it calm. So Sherry, if you want to tee that up, maybe this is a good time to do it. I am here, but my camera is not working. Okay, I don't know. I think there's something there that's positive. Oh my God, there I am being positive. Damn, Donna.
It's good to be here.
Awesome. So let's start off. Did we lose? I hope Jamie's okay. She's going to be coming back in a second.
Change her mind.
Okay, Sherry, we'll do it one more time. Just keep rolling, okay?
Yeah, and it's gonna be different because I don't know what I said.
It's just life, and guess what?
It is chaotic.
Share.
Okay, ladies, you're live.
She has dedicated her professional career to help women, their health, sexual fun. Why can't I say this word? Do you think this is Freudian? We don't have to talk about it.
She's asking for some refresh, and I'll tell you what, she is refreshment personified. Wednesday at noon, looking forward to spending some time with you. You can say something now.
Oh, for me? Y'all know I'm a police officer. I don't do all this stuff.
That is definitely gonna have to be edited.
So please let us know if, what you liked about that. Give Sherry encouragement because she had so much fun doing it. It makes her laugh and I want her to laugh. So it's good. But there you have it. Segments from 15 weeks of heartfelt, revealing conversations. I encourage you to watch the full shows if you'd like to. I probably want to just go back to Lakesha a little bit. I don't think that conversation is nearly done. We're still living this idea of being Black and blue and being proud of it, where this country is on law and order, on police brutality. I think we know where we are there, but how do we solve for that? And what about our people in uniform? And who are they? And I don't know, it's a conundrum. And I think that we will go back and revisit this subject as more seems to be unfolding and revealing itself. It is a community by community solution, which is also interesting in law enforcement. But every day is a day to learn. I do want to encourage everybody to join us next week, because next week we will have an amazing guest. She happens to be a great friend. She happens to be a former partner at Goldman Sachs. She happens to be an advisor to startups, and she also happens to be the chairman of the board of directors for Generation W. And what a leader she is. I think if you were with us from the beginning, you would always say, what does Lisa think? Lisa was just always here supporting, putting out great questions. And I think she's here again, and we could not be more grateful, truly grateful for her and to her. And she's going to talk a little bit about how to be in control in a life filled with curveballs, which is the life we are living. But we'll also have the time for all of us to take some notes and reflect on Generation W and some of the themes that came out of that. Knowing that all of us will be watching, right? We'll be engaging. So I do want everyone to know, we're going to remind you to register. You have an exclusive window. You might not know this. Once you register, you have an exclusive window to watch content you may want to see again, and I am sure that you will. You may also have had to get up and do something so you can go back and watch it if you missed it. And you also have access to workshops. There's a special window for a group on Thursday night for 10 specially curated, personalized workshops. And if you register on Friday, you will have access to, I think, about half of them, maybe 5 of them. They are all terrific. Based on our conversations and the people we've had here, they are related, and you will find goodness and good nuggets and great solace and support and happiness and all those great things that happen when someone cares enough to share their wisdom with us. So, register, please, and we'll see you on Friday. Some of you might be registering for Thursday. That's usually if you're with a company. It's a special group. And I want to thank you all, and I want you to all help me thank, we're a little early today, Sherry Levin, an amazing producer who caringly put all of this together. She loves this content. She loves this show. We love her. I love her. And I just want to say thank you, Sherry, for your passion every week, in and out, and for bringing us these great highlights. So without further ado, I'm just saying, oh, Ken Babby is looking forward to W. That's awesome. Marsha laughed out loud. That would be your daughter. So you've trained her well, Sherry. And I don't think I see anything else. Oh, let me see if there's anything else in the chat. I think we're good. So without further ado, honestly, these busy bees are going to get back to being kind and making the honey. It is a really special week. It's only made more special with all of you participating. If in fact you have any friends who you really like, please send them along the link. If you need a link, let us know at genwnow.com. Truly, we are in the final stages of putting it all together. And I promise you, it will be something that you will have been glad you devoted your time to and be glad that you shared with others. Till next week's Refresh with Gen W in between, everyone be well, be safe, be healthy, and as best as you can, be happy. Ciao.